Right, hello there ladies and gents, welcome to another repair video. Today we're going to be working on this Nintendo Switch which has been sent in. This has been sent in by a viewer, and on the notes for the ticket it says that the battery has been replaced and it's still not charging. So we're going to take a look and see what we can do. I was going to do this off video, but I took a look at it on the USB ammeter and I realised that it's doing something a little bit different to what it normally does. So while I've got your attention, if you are new to the channel and you like this type of content, I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications, and that way you don't miss any future videos. It's quite early in the morning, it's 9:21 and I've already looked at two devices, so yeah. So you just saw the charger working there. The reason it was flickering on and off is because I've got my case on my phone, but the charger does work. So if I plug that in there, it works absolutely fine, and it's even got super fast charging. So, is it going to show? There you go, super fast charging 2.0. So there's nothing at all wrong with the charger. But when I plug it into here, there's nothing happening. So it's not even recognising. Oh, hang on. Okay, there we go. Alright, so when I wiggle it about, on one side of the port, that was working for a second. So I think we've got a damaged charger port, and yep, we have indeed. Okay, so let's take a look under the scope at the charger port and we'll see the condition of it. And yep, you can see inside there we've got some bent pins. It's a little bit dark, but we do have some damaged pins inside there. So zooming in then, you can see a better view of the charger port, and there's definitely some damage to those pins. So we're at least going to need a charger port. So what I'm going to do is take it apart, and I actually didn't notice that before because literally all I did was plugged it in. So basically I noticed it wasn't picking up on here, so I decided to do a video. So in for a penny, in for a pound. We're already recording now, so we may as well carry on. It might just be a nice straightforward charge port replacement, and I just realised I was still zoomed in, sorry about that. So if you want to support the channel while I'm taking it apart, if you want to support the channel, I just want to let you know that I am over on Twitch. So if you head over to Twitch, there's a link in the video description. Head over to Twitch and you can become a Twitch Prime subscriber for free by linking your Amazon Prime account. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me out. And I'm also on Patreon as well. I've never actually shouted my Patreon out, I don't think. But I'm also on Patreon as well. There's a link in the video description if you want to support me on Patreon, or even as a channel member by using the join button below the video. So we've got a damaged charger port, but the first thing I want to do is just check the CPU capacitor. So zoomed in here, you can see we've got a chip in the middle. That chip there is M92T36, and that's responsible for taking power from the charger and distributing it across the board. But one thing that's also there is a little capacitor just here. And this little capacitor just here is connected directly to the CPU. If that shows up short, then we just give up right now. And I've actually got one, literally, which I worked on this morning, right there. And that one had a dead CPU. So we'll pop the multimeter into continuity mode. That's the mode that's going to beep when we complete a circuit. So if we go from, say, for example, here to here, then we've got a short because the path is complete. So what we do is we pop one probe on a ground point. I can use the shield for that. And then we pop the other probe on the top of this cap. And we don't have a dead CPU. Good. The bottom, as you can see, that shows up as short because that is the ground side. So what I'll do is I'll get this apart and we'll get the charge port replaced, and we'll do a few more tests as well. And actually, while I'm zoomed in, save going under the microscope, because I can do this by eye, but while I'm zoomed in I can just check some other components. So I can check these caps here, and yeah, we have a short there. And we also have a short on this capacitor here. And this capacitor here is linked to P13 USB. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take this board out, and we're going to need to remove M92, P13 and the port, and then see if we've still got a short, because there is still a chance that it could have a bad CPU. So I'll get this thing apart and we'll take it from there. So P13 USB is the video IC. That's responsible for sending video signals to the HDMI port, but it also does control a little bit of the charging circuit as well. And the collateral damage on there is pretty normal, to be honest. It very often blows when we have a short on the M92 or on the charge port. So it's fairly common, but sometimes it's a case where even after removing the chip we still get a short, and in that case then it's the CPU that's gone usually. Alright, one more thing I am noticing before I take it out is we do have damage on the fan connector, and unfortunately I don't have any of those connectors. I do have a donor bulb which I could potentially take one from, but I am noticing damage there to that. So there's the board out. So what I want to do is pop under the microscope and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so we've definitely got a short around M92, but I'll just show you close up where I was testing. So I'll get the multimeter back and go into continuity mode, and I'm going to pop one probe on ground. So I'll use the shield just off to the side, and then we'll just test these caps here. And we get a short there, and we also get a short there. So these sides here are all ground, so I don't generally need to test them. Same as this one, this is ground, I don't need to test that. But we do get a short on this cap here and this cap here. The one off to the side is fine, but we're also getting a short on this cap here, which is linked directly to P13 USB. And this cap here is only 70 something ohms as well, so that's fairly short as well. Let's just test this fuse just here. Okay, the fuse is good. Let's test this filter. Okay, the filter's good, so we should get continuity from top to bottom on both of them, and we shouldn't get continuity from left to right. So that filter's good. Let's test these MOSFETs here for shorts. And that's good as well. Yep, that's fine. Let's test this coil here. It's important to test this coil because if this coil has blown, it might look like it's taking charge, but it won't actually charge the battery. Okay, and the coil is good from top to bottom. So that's trolled me a few times. So I'll test around BQ. So BQ 24193, this is the battery charging IC. And yep, we've got no shorts around there. Let's take a look while we're still on this side. Let's just see this connector. Okay, so it's missing the catch. We also have a missing component. Where's that come from? Oh dear. I don't know where that could have come from. The connector's actually... Oh, the connector's been ripped off. Okay, so I think that's come from underneath. So, the connector's been moved. I think this has come from underneath, so I'm going to have to change this connector. But at the minute, that's not really important. What is important is trying to get it to turn on and charge. This connector is just for the fan. I've put that little component to one side. I don't know if it's a resistor or a capacitor, but I'll put that to one side. I'll deal with this a little bit later on. Well, there you go. That's just dealt with it. So we've got some damage here to this. And yeah, that's come from there. Is one of these side ground? Because if it is, then it's going to basically be... Yeah, okay, so it's just going to be a capacitor. So We do need to put a connector on here to be able to get the fan to work. So the fan's not going to work if that connector's not there. So if we get it working, then we'll have to do that. I am going to inspect for more damage because obviously there's user damage there. So this is a prior repair attempt. So the P13 USB that I was referring to is just here. Let's just test around here for shorts. Yeah, 75 ohms. Okay, so this is actually the one that was showing up as 70 something ohms. I always get those two capacitors mixed up. So this one here and this one here I'll get mixed up sometimes. It might be this one that's linked to P13 USB. It's reading a 70 something ohms. It is dropping, so eventually that would beep. Now, whether or not the chip is bad or whether that's just referring to something on the charge port is a whole nother question. So I need to remove the charge port so as I don't get any false readings. I'm going to test the filters around here. Okay, we've got no bad filters. So I'm going to need to remove the charge port first, and the reason for that is because we could get false readings. So I want to remove that first and then test P13 USB again after that. It could just be the fact that there's a line shorting out across that line and it's causing a false reading on the capacitor. So we'll do that, and that will be step number one. What I'm going to do first, like I said, is remove this port. And I actually got this question last night about why I don't use low melt solder on these ports, and the reason for that is because there's a hidden row of pins on the other side of the board which you can't access. So if you put low melt solder on the port, then you can put low melt solder here on these ground points and you can put them on the back row of pins, but you can't put them on the row that's hidden. So there's a row just here that's hidden. You can't put them there. So that basically means that you're going to melt everything before you melt this hidden row of pins. So it doesn't cause a problem for most people, but personally I prefer not to. So I'm going to heat up the area at 440 degrees Celsius until this port pretty much just desolders itself and drops out. Okay, it's getting ready. Give it a wiggle, make sure everything's melted, and then it'll just drop itself out. Easy as that. And then you're left with a perfectly clean port pull. So as you can see, we've got no torn pads there, no damage to the port at all, or rather the port circuit. And now that I've got the port removed, I'm going to test this area again. So I'm going to pop one probe on ground. And yeah, we still have 70 ohms. So I'm going to hold this here for a second because you guys are not going to be able to hear this. I can see visibly and I can see it as well. Let's just see if it wants to change. No, it's not going to. I'll tell you what, I'll do it on camera. So there's the multimeter, and I'm going to go into resistance mode. And then I'm going to pop one probe on here. And as you can see there, we get 69 ohms. Nice. 69 ohms. That's short. But the question is, what is causing the short? The first thing I'm going to remove is M92T36. So I'm going to find out if that's causing the short first, and then I'm going to test again. So we definitely have a short on M92, so I can remove this before I remove P13, just in case. Alright, so M92 gone. I did that without the scope. To be honest, I don't really use the scope for a lot of things these days. I'm just used to the places where things are. So I generally do it by eye. Alright, so with that removed, let's test again on M92, sorry, on P13 rather. So in resistance mode. Yeah, we still have 67 ohms there. So still 67 ohms, which means that we either have a short on P13 USB or we have a short on the CPU. Okay, so there's P13 gone. Let's test it once more. Yeah, 65 ohms. That unfortunately is a dead CPU. 0.037 volt drop. That unfortunately is a dead CPU. So yeah, unfortunately there is nothing we are going to be able to do with this device. So if I take a donor board, this one here, it shows as dead. Well, it says dead on it, but let me just get a good reading off here. So this hasn't got a dead CPU, but at the same time it doesn't turn on or charge. I think it's a NAND issue. If we go into diode mode for that, so let's read it in diode mode. Let's get all of the readings. .702, so 0.7 volt drop to ground on that. Oh, hang on, red probe ground, sorry. 0.403, okay. So let's test this one red probe on ground, because I think I've got the probes mixed up. Yeah, 0.38. 0.038 still. So ohms mode on one without a dead CPU, we get, so one probe on ground. $3,000 ohms. 3,000 ohms. Sadly, this one is not going to be fixable, and we are going to call it a day. So I'm going to give the customer the bad news. Never a fun conversation to have with the customer to tell them that you've got a dead CPU, but unfortunately this is just something that happens. So what I'll do with this is I'll put the two chips back on. I'm not putting the port back on. I'm not wasting a port. This board can never be fixed, so I'm not going to be wasting a port on this. I will contact the customer and let him know, and unfortunately it's just the way it is. I will put the chips back on. The P13 USB chip is probably good. M92 T36 is definitely bad, but the port, I'm not going to waste a port. I'll just throw this port back on just to make it, just to make it complete again. So I'll just literally throw that on with some hot air, without a care in the world, basically. This console can never be fixed, and that's just unfortunately the way it is sometimes. But one good thing is I've showed you that even if this capacitor here, this CPU capacitor, is not showing as short, there's still a good chance that it can have a dead CPU. Or there's still a chance, at least, that it can have a dead CPU. The reason that we say it's a dead CPU is because all of the research that myself and other technicians, such as Micromage Repair, Jason's Electronics Repair, and quite a few others, Tronics Fix as well. So every technician on YouTube, collectively, we do actually talk and we do actually get along, or most of us do. We get along really well and we share information. And basically, in all of our experience working on, between us collectively, thousands of these devices, collectively thousands. And between us, we have determined that whenever we get a short on P13 USB, and the issue isn't down to the chip itself, then it's always down to the CPU. So it does suck, but hopefully you've learned at least that you can test different areas for a short to determine whether or not it's going to be fixable before you waste money buying chips, or before you waste time installing chips that you could potentially damage while installing them. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Sadly, it's a no fix on this one, but it is what it is, and unfortunately we can't fix them all. If you do have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to answer. If you want to organise your own repair, you can get in touch using the website address in the video description. You can head over there, you can book in a repair, you can see some comment price lists, or you can get in touch using the contact page if you've got a repair related question. So one thing I will say is that if you do have any questions where you want to try and fix it yourself, then you're best off using Discord, because I don't have time to reply to requests for assistance on business emails. So if that makes sense, hopefully it does make sense, but I do get quite a lot of people who will try and ask me for help on business emails, and that's not the purpose of that contact page. So I'm just putting it out there that if you do want help, get in touch on Discord or in the comment section, because obviously I can help you more there, and it doesn't give me a time limit on when I need to reply and stuff. Obviously, if I don't reply to an email, then my inbox gets filled up. So yeah, you can use that contact page for getting in touch if you want to ask a question about a specific repair that you want me to do. But if you want to repair it yourself, get in touch on Discord, because that way as well, not only me, but there are hundreds of people who can potentially help as well. If you do want to support me, then like I said earlier, you can become a Patreon supporter using the link in the video description. You can become a channel sponsor using the join button below the video. That gives you a nice little icon, a little cool icon. And you can also become a Twitch Prime subscriber. There's also a donate link in the video description as well if you want to support me that way. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you are new to the channel, like I said, don't forget to subscribe. But for now, that's going to be it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.